All right, welcome back to another episode of Into the Valley, where today we will be looking back on Charlton's opening fixture of the season, clinching a 2-1 victory against Derby, coming from 1-0 behind. Championship's back.
It's back. I mean, to be fair, like those opening games are always. Charlton have got a brilliant track record, and I hadn't realised that we've won. That makes it 4 in a row now. And I saw a stat on X actually, and it was saying that only Charlton and Arsenal and Man City, I think, are the only 4 remaining for like the last 4.
The kind of teams I'd put us in.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair,
up in the
I mean,
echelon.
last season we were up in the top of Europe for defensive clean sheets. It's just
we're up here.
The kind of company we like.
Up with the big boys. But no, I mean, like we clearly, and it's. I knew being at the Valley, the crowd are always massively up for it. It's that optimism, isn't it, of like the first game of the season. But obviously, the way that we won as well is really pleasing because, like, I think I saw again, like online, somebody saying, like, I can't remember the last time we came from 1-0 down to winning. So already we're showing like that sort of resilience. So yeah, brilliant. And also just getting the 3 points on the board this early is massive, I think, in the start of the season. So yeah, I couldn't have gone any better, really.
Well, I also just thought, and probably not so much if you're a Derby fan, because I don't think they were brilliant, but as a Charlton fan watching it, it was a really enjoyable game to watch as well. I thought it seemed like this whole question mark over the change of system and everything surrounding that, it really clicked into place.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, it's not the finished article, but watching that game, it was so night and day difference in how we went about things. And even that's when we got the equaliser. It just didn't feel like we dropped into the same mistakes we kind of did last year. And going to a fallback does bring out some vulnerabilities that I think some of it will mean that we're getting used to, but others are just the fact you haven't got that kind of backline defence. But it also does open up such brilliant attacking options.
Yeah, exactly that.
Much more expansive and also being able to play players in their positions.
Yeah, 100%. And I think as well, like you just said, the fact that we haven't got the 3 centre-backs now, so we're not completely sort of comfortable if we're going to be more exposed, put it that way. And we saw that, actually, to be fair, for their first goal. But at the same time, we don't look... Before, when we were moving the ball forwards, we just looked so sort of slow. All of a sudden, we're able to, because we've got that better sort of ball playing midfielder in the middle of the park, we're able to transition the ball up the pitch a lot quicker. And again, we saw that. We saw like actual counter-attacks coming in, and not just from a lumped through ball. It was through sort of good passing, good runs in and out of the left and the right. Yeah, it's just really refreshing, and actually, like, we're seeing glimpses already of how a formation change can really change the way we play, which is really, really positive to see, and hopefully that continues. We're going to have tough games, and I think yesterday was a tough game. Like, Derby's always going to be a decent side to come up against, but that just shows that we can perform at those levels against really top sides, because they're going to be up. I think they'll be up there. They're not going to be down the bottom, are they? They're going to
it feels like they're probably not the finished article yet because of
the takeover stuff.
And I think a lot of it's been waiting for that to go through for them to then go really hard at the end of the transfer window, and obviously that not happening. I'm sure they will look like a slightly different, stronger team and probably quite a good time to play them. But as I say, they've still got really good players. You've Schmodix, obviously, Carlton Morris, Clark
looked really dangerous.
They're good players in there. So yeah, it was a really, really enjoyable game. So we are going to go into a bit more detail on it. But first of all, we have got some transfer kind of talk since the last episode. So coming into the club, one that we saw as a real left field, didn't really seem to have many legs to it on the transfer rumour, and then a couple of days later, Timothy Uma is through the door on a loan in from Slavia Prague, but with an option to buy.
Yeah.
To me, that seems like a really clever bit of business. It's kind of a try before you buy signing, and comes with some real exciting, I think, really exciting prospect. He reminds me quite similar, and strangely enough, of the Sachenje signing. I think there's going to be some work to be done there, but definitely clearly a player in there who's got European pedigree and as a type of player as well, seems to tick a lot of the boxes of the type of central midfielders we want.
Yeah, 100%. And he looks like that sort of aggressive style of player. Again, one that's not afraid to get his foot on the ball, run with it, strong, athletic, that sort of thing. So they're only positives. Like, they're the sort of ilk of player that we're looking to bring in. And one thing we've all noticed is because we're obviously still fairly limited in budget as we sort of progress in our time in the Championship. We're looking a bit further afield, and that's maybe where Phil Chappell's come in and actually started looking at signing players from further afield, which is what Jones has already sort of alluded to. But all of a sudden, we're looking to pluck sort of a few gems from leagues where the competition's not so intense, and that can actually work really well if you actually are able to sort of earmark the players that have got those abilities, the skill sets that you're looking for. And hopefully, like you said, the fact that it's an option to buy means if he does play well for us, we can snap him up. And if he isn't so good, then he just goes back. So, shrewd bit of business, actually.
No, I think so. And I thought when I watched some of I know you've always got to be careful when you go on YouTube and you start looking at the highlights. But with him, actually, I think it's just some of the characteristic traits. It's so nice to see us looking at central midfielders who take the ball in and instantly it's turn and wanting to go forward. And I think that's something we miss so much, and something that Chalobah has kind of brought in just off his few appearances there. But it is such a integral part to us developing. And to see us signing that kind of player, I think, as you say, I think it can only be looked at as a positive. And I'm really excited. I would assume we probably aren't going to see him immediately.
He's going to need a bit of time to sort of get used to the league, get used to the players that are around him. He's only just come in, so it's going to take a few games at least. But yeah, I think the shirt sales in Nairobi are going to be pumping.
I think we're going to be very popular on that side of the world. So, so that's obviously the in. I think the interesting one, which is probably the most joyous one I've seen so far this week. It's not a new signing, but my Christ, does it feel like it? The Lloyd Jones contract extension, 2-year contract extension. For me, so vital. I think he's the heartbeat of what we do. He feels like, even though there are players who have been there for like longer periods of time, even though I think he's probably one of the longest serving in that lineup. He's not a player who's been there like 9-10 years, but he kind of feels like it to me. He's been such an integral part of that team.
I think that's it, that he has been such a rock at the back for us for so long now. And as soon as he came in, I think he had a brief moment where he sort of took a bit of, but that's just what happens when you bring a new player in at first. But since then, he's just gone from strength to strength. And arguably, well, on stats-wise, he was the best centre-back in the league last year. But I'm not sure about you, but like, I never really felt that worried that he was going to go. Like, his age helps us a little bit in terms of he's 30, I think he is. So that brings him to another 2 years. But also, he's just such a good fit for the club, and I think like he's sort of paying back to the club what they've put into him, because he's already admitted like his best football has been at Charlton, and I think he's realised that actually he's loved at Charlton. He is like number one name on the team sheet, and also captain. He will probably be our mainstay captain in this season. So really, like, for him, he has become like an absolute vital part of our team, and there was no real reason for him to have to go. So yeah, we're really grateful that he signed. But
I'm with you. I never really had huge concerns that anything was going to happen. The only concern you ever have is that
you see rumours, don't you?
It only takes one big club to come in and turn their head.
People were talking about West Ham for a while, weren't they? But I don't think that.
I think that was just
people making up rumours.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. You have to very much kind of sift through anything online. But I think the thing with him, it seems like he's just really happy and settled, but also quite sensible headed. Because I think at 30, you could go and take that big move. You could go and maybe sign for someone who's more promotion pushing. You can quite easily then at that point, because you're not a mainstay in the team, you're a new signing coming in, drop out of favour, and then you can almost waste your kind of.
We've seen it loads.
Yeah,
Ricky Holmes did it for us. Do you remember? Like, there's been loads of players where they've gone on. You'd argue Lyle Taylor, players like that. They've gone on, and we don't really want to mention him, but but like. Ultimately, that is the thing. You're taking a punt, whereas or you stay and you be the main man and that's what he's chosen to do. And like I say, it's only going to be good for both parties, really. So,
well, it's such a rarity for us to see as Charlton fans that we're actually looking at a squad now that is predominantly under contract, and we're having to still
run much better than that.
Yeah, we're still really, there's two big ones, isn't there, in there still with the contract renewal.
Yeah.
From what I've seen with TC, there seems to be some quite positive updates. I've seen things coming out, kind of rumours of the fact we're looking at not far off a long-term contract with him.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Might even be a kind of 3 or 4 year contract. And the brilliant thing with him is that that's also bringing assets into our squad. And we've said if there does hit a point that he really does hit the potential he has, then potentially you've got a really saleable asset that could bring you in quite a number of millions.
If he keeps scoring screamers, which he's done in the first 2 games back, then like people are going to start looking at him. And his age, he's 22. Like he's got bags of potential still, so he's still developing. So yeah, if we can get that one across the line, that would be massive for the club, I think. Yeah. And
the final one, which I think is probably the most interesting one as it's developed over the week, is a bit of a twofold one. So it's a position we've said we didn't particularly have as much worries as maybe the fan base had, albeit I think as days have gone on and weeks have gone on, it's definitely creeped in a little bit more. What feels like has kind of exploded a bit more now this week is Kaminski. Linked out to move to Sparta Rotterdam. I think seems to be that's the location he's going to be going. I've seen a link today potentially about Blackburn as well. But the most interesting one of that is the Nathan Jones interview that's kind of come out, and I think in the week has indicated that he needs to either knuckle down and whatever if he does end up staying. And today or yesterday. There's a real kind of bite when he was asked questions regarding it. It was almost like I chose my 2 best keepers.
Yeah.
And
he's pissed, isn't he?
Well, you kind of get the feeling the writing's on the wall on that, and I feel that's got to be pretty much. I mean, the fact he hasn't started those first 2 games, he's completely out of the squad, and those comments, I think it's pretty much a guarantee he's a goner. And to be fair, at this stage, when you look at the potential wages or the kind of wages he's rumoured to be on and the performance he's put in,
it's around the 20 grand mark.
Yeah.
He's our highest earner.
Yeah.
But I hadn't realised quite how much of a sort of issue it was. I thought, there's been fans that haven't been too keen on the way he's played, and I sit in that camp to a degree. I think he for the money that he's on, he hasn't performed what we expected. We've talked about this before, but I hadn't really clocked on to the fact that he must have fallen out with Jones. Like there must have been something said, or he said, "I want to leave," and Jones not going to take kindly to that. He's going to just drop him, isn't he?
Well, I wonder if some of it came over the fact he was signed as our number 1. And over especially the tail end of last season, he was kind of dropping in and out of the squad. I wonder if there is a bit of an ego thing that he thought he was coming in and there'd be no question of his number 1 shirt. And actually, through his own kind of doing in regards to performances not being at that kind of level to keep someone else out of the squad. And I wonder if that's just kind of boiled over and ended up where we are. But I think the biggest thing that comes to that is it's getting that replacement in. Mannion, I like Mannion. I don't think I'd feel confident losing Kaminski and just relying solely on him.
Someone else needs to be brought in.
And I think someone else needs to be brought in. And the rumour at the moment that seems to be circling as a choice being made kind of between us and Bolton seemed to be another one he might be interested, is the Wrexham keeper, Arthur Okonkwo.
Yeah, he's obviously played for Wrexham for a while now, and he's made some brilliant. So like he's looked pretty
24.
Good. Yeah, he's 6'6", I think, as well. So he's an absolute mountain in the goal. And I think he's just broken into like Nigeria's international side as well. So he's got bags loads of potential. The stuff that I've read is that it could either be a loan or potentially a sign. They're working on either or. I think loan I wouldn't be so keen on, because although he'd be coming in, I'm never that keen on loan keepers. We've done it quite a lot in the past. But what I see in that is, let's invest again. If we're going to get rid of a player that we're paying massive wages to, let's reinvest it.
I agree, but when it all comes apart at this stage of the transfer window, I'd rather get a loan than rush to get someone in for the sake of it.
If that's the only route, if that's the route that's being forced, then yeah, I agree with that. But ideally, I'd like to sign.
Just signed the Sunderland keeper for $8 million. They would probably have a preference for it to be a transfer fee,
permanent, yeah.
and I have a feeling he's out of contract next at the end of the season.
Yeah, so it could all be quite good timing for us.
Mm.
But the other thing with Kaminsky as well, I was thinking, like, I wonder if he goes on, because he gets hammered online. Like, a lot of Charlton fans call him out week in, week out. I wonder if he ever like goes on the line online and like sort of checks what's being said, and maybe that might be another thing. He just doesn't feel like he's really appreciated at the club. I don't know.
If I'm being completely honest, I don't think he is. And
No.
but once again, it's kind of come from the fact he was sold as this kind of messiah, this ex-Premier League keeper who would really level our game up. And the fact that it's gone from Mannion and Ashley Maynard Brewer to fighting out the spaces to Kaminsky and him shows that we didn't really.
There's not going to be too many fans crying about it. And I think if we can get in someone like a Conquo, actually, it could even be an upgrade. So, like, actually, this could be it's come out of the blue a little bit for me. Like, I didn't see it happening. I thought we'd just stick with what we've got. But obviously, the fact that it's gone down that way is going to be really interesting in the coming days, what actually happens. But
Yep. See how it unfolds. But that seems to be the bulk of our transfer kind of gossip at the moment. Obviously, there's this big question mark around our right wing as well. I think there's
Saki.
I think there's just a desperation of what he was when he was with us, and that sometimes reminds me weirdly of the Abu Kamara going back to Portsmouth. And almost going back to your kind of.
By the way, he missed an absolute sitter for them.
He had a really low rating. It was quite lovely to see, really, because maybe dodged a bullet. Who knows? But no, it kind of reminds me of that with Raksaki, because he's actually had quite a turbulent career since then. And actually, when you look at fans, for example, like Sheffield United fans, they haven't really rated his performances that amazingly well. So it'd be an interesting one to see where we go with that. I think it definitely is a need. Obviously, we're playing at the moment. TC seems to be starting out there, and then this
Aptus
kind of hybrid moving across. Aptus just coming back to fitness. But I think that seems to be probably goalkeeper, right wing, and then anything else is a bonus. I think there's a slim chance we look at one more midfielder, but.
I think that's the
unlikely.
key. They've sort of made it clear that there's maybe going to spend a bit of money on a winger. So let's hope so.
Let's see. Time will tell. Well, there's the transfer gossip all done and dusted. So let's move into the derby game. So as we've kind of already gone over it a little bit, but let's move into that first half then. Started the game really strongly. I thought we definitely took the ball by the horns and felt, I say, just so much more confident on the ball, playing it round. Albeit first game of the season, it's always a bit cagey, isn't it? You're getting into that first. Albeit we've had a competitive game. It's that first real competitive game.
Nothing like the first league game, is it?
Yeah, you're kind of sounding each other out, getting up to speed. And as I say, those early stages, there seem to be a few signs that maybe things are going to be a bit different. And there were some real positive kind of green shoots. I think Grant had a pretty early on chance where it came to the edge of the box, and I'm sure he will feel that he should have maybe caught it a little bit better.
Bit of Saito, wasn't it?
Yeah. So the derby at the same time, you can tell, even though I feel like we were the team on top, after that first 10-15 minutes, they started to click into gear a bit more. Attacking down that right-hand side, our left, it seemed...
Yeah, there was
we were discussing before, weren't we? It seemed like there was a bit of a kind of chasm in there.
Bit of a disconnect maybe at the beginning between Cometio and Bell. I think there was some gaps opening up, and I think we started to realise that maybe we needed to sort of switch on a bit more down that side, because they were starting to break us down a little bit.
And they got down the wing, I think, played into Schmodics, who got a shot on goal. Mannion actually took it in really well.
Yeah,
he could have easily... A lot of keepers who would have maybe palmed that away into danger.
He
actually kind of grabbed it back in and did quite well with it. But it wasn't too much longer after that. 23rd minute, ball over. Lloyd Jones... I think missed his first header in about 5 years. And what happens when Lloyd Jones misses a header? We're in trouble. The ball played through to Colton Morris. It was actually really lovely. If you're a Derby fan, as two strikers linking up with each other, Schmodics into Morris holding it up, playing it back into Schmodics, really tidy finish. Just played it the wrong side. Keeper has no chance.
Yeah.
As I say, I think there's a few little question marks over some defensive bits in there that maybe were pulled apart a little bit too easily. But I have to admit, when I watched it, I just kind of, occasionally when you play football, you just look at it and go, that's a pretty good goal.
Yeah,
there was definitely some errors.
I did think, like, when it opened up and I saw Schmodic sprinting back in, I did think, like, where the hell is the defence? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it almost parted like the Red Sea a little bit. But I think you saw Cometio sort of flying in, he almost blocked it, but he was a bit too late. He was sprinting back, but it was a little bit worrying. And when that goal did go in, I thought, oh no, here we go. Like I didn't want to see us capitulate, which could have easily happened.
And I think that's kind of how the game felt like. Not that it felt like it was going, but it felt a little bit backs against the wall. They had confidence, and they were a team over the whole 90 who were not at their best, but they had a little spell after that. And I'd say it was probably from about the 15th minute, they obviously had the goal, and it probably went up to about 35 minutes where they really put some pressure on us. I thought we looked like we were defaulting back to our kind of lump it up. Central midfield was kind of a bit missing. And to be fair, some of that was the fact Derby were just playing.
They've also got
good football.
They've got good players, and they've got players who have played in that side for a while. So I think they've already got that sort of cohesion in the team. On top of that, you've got, like you said, Clark. You've got solid defenders as well. So like they're not an easy team to break down. And actually, if they get their foot on the ball, they're quite effective as well. And we did see that, to be fair.
Yeah, no, definitely. But as the game went on, within that period, as I say, they didn't create loads of kind of opportunities and score. So I felt it was definitely pressure, but I thought we were defending very well, and I think it's something we did throughout the whole game. But as the half went on and it teetered more towards the end of the half, we definitely did start to
finished it strong.
Yeah, create a bit more. TC running down the wing was just, he was causing a lot of problems and was playing really well. Ball into Sonny Carey, who there was our penalty shout. It wasn't a penalty.
No, to be fair, I did. On first glance, it looked like it could have been, because the leg did go across him, but there wasn't enough contact, and I think he did try and buy it in
the fact he straight away tried to get the ball again and kind of made you think even he didn't really. I think it was one that was probably not far away. The defender didn't really get the ball, but there wasn't enough contact.
No, that was it. It just wasn't enough. And the ref, to be fair, was pretty close by. You mentioned TC as well. Like, he had another one where he cut in and he had like a shot at the near post. The keeper made a good save. But like you said, he was a standout in terms of, as soon as he got switched over to that left-hand side, he all of a sudden started creating a lot of chaos for their right back, and he had him on toast a couple of times, to be fair.
It's weird, isn't it? If you play a left winger in left wing. He actually does. He does quite well.
But what I liked as well was we recycled the ball really well in the end of that half. So like, even when they were sort of clearing the ball out, we got hold of it again, and we came again, and it was sort of wave after wave a little bit, which was nice to see, because that's something we haven't really done, especially last season. And
someone I wouldn't expect to nearly be on the score sheet. Obviously TC once again causing that chaos down the side, crossing it in. Ball comes out from a header. And very, very close. Danny McNamara
caught that really
nicely.
Good block.
And I think Derby also, I can't remember if it was first or maybe second half, they had a similar one where they caught the ball. And
Charlie Taylor, I think.
It kind of looked like if it doesn't hit someone, it's a very good chance, because it's so sweetly struck. But yeah, it felt like we definitely went into the end of the second half with confidence. And it was frustrating, the fact that we'd gone 1-0 down, but I felt there's many games where we've gone in and gone, everything has to change. I looked at it and thought, you know what, go in and a lot of kind of the same.
Yeah, I didn't feel too panicky about it. I thought as long as we can get in at half-time 1-0, my fear was that when they scored that we would capitulate, and we didn't. We sort of rode it out, and then we finished strong. So second half, I knew we'd hopefully come out and sort of carry on the way we sort of ended that first half.
And what do you make? Because predominantly his performance was in the first half, but Sonny Carey,
he didn't have his best game. But then I think there's a lot of, I think as Charlton fans, we expect so much from him that when he doesn't play so well, we see it more.
From his start of a Charlton career, it just seems at the moment he's in a little bit of a quandary towards his final product. I think, obviously, we always know he's got that shot in him, and potentially that driving run and shot, I think, is quite good. But especially when it comes to the passing side of it, I just find sometimes he's a little bit slow on releasing it.
Yeah.
We've said it a few times, and decision-making at those final points. I thought there was a few times in that first half where, like, Godden laid it off to him, and I just thought sometimes his decision-making, it still seems quite raw. I think there's still quite a player to be developed in there.
There is, but we
I really like him.
Yeah, no, I do too. But I also think as well, like, having a few more quality sort of players around him will help him. Naturally, like, we won't rely on him so much. So even if he isn't having a great game, he can sort of get away with it. But he's going to be a mainstay in the side, I think. Nibs, to be fair, if he isn't playing top top draw, then Nibs might eventually be coming in and swapping out for him, but we'll see.
You assume there's going to be some form of rotation in
Yeah,
there
there will be
towards
anyway.
it,
There
so,
will be
yeah,
anyway.
So, but yeah, no, so it's an interesting one. So yeah, so we go into obviously second half coming out, and it felt like we kind of picked up at where we kind of left off. It felt like we were applying the pressure. Derby definitely didn't seem to be kind of being able to get their foot on the ball as they were in that kind of period in the first half that they had. And I thought we were doing really well. Some of the passages of play, and the one I can kind of remember the most is TC and Chalobah really linking up nicely with TC, dropping it to him, and Chalobah playing a first time ball forwards, not taking it and then moving backwards, but actually just playing that ball forward and letting TC, with his absolutely electric pace, getting behind.
Yeah.
And once again, it was our other kind of penalty shout. It wasn't a penalty, in my opinion, but it's getting in those dangerous positions where something like that could happen.
Well, also we're forcing defenders to be on the stretch, and that's what we didn't do enough last year. And again, like, it's just having that midfielder in there to just play that through ball through the line. Like, we weren't doing that last year. So again, it's like really refreshing to see that cup finally sort of being played more regularly. And yeah, it caused a lot of problems.
And it wasn't, obviously, following on from that, looking at some subs that came on, obviously 59th minute, we had Ali and Leeburn come on, replacing, I think it was Godden and Carey.
Yeah, Godden, to be fair, Godden struggled a little bit, but I think we didn't play to his strengths.
Christ, we were playing Route 1.
We did. The only things he was really given were trying to win headers, and that's not his game. Like, so I think for him, like, he just didn't really get his foot on the ball enough.
I think is he 35 now? I think he is.
Yeah, he's
35-year-old marksman striker.
Yeah.
You kind of know what you're going to get. If anyone's expecting him to be kind of running the lines, this, that, the other, it's not what you're going to get, and he's not going to be a target man. He is there to score the goals out of nothing, and that's what his job will be for this season. I think if we're expecting him to be this really dynamic striker, maybe 10 years prior, that's what you were going to get.
But also, like, we're only going to see the best of him if we supply to him, like, the right balls anyway. So, like, he was just played in the wrong way, thing. And that's why, actually, when Leeburn came on, we actually saw a big shift in the way that we sort of were able to be more effective.
When I thought Leeburn coming on, and also Ali, it also highlighted this incredible depth that we've been able to kind of develop. And it's not just the depth in quality of players, but system.
Yeah.
Seeing Grant drop into the middle, kind of playing the number 10 role, and then Ali moving out onto the wing. The fact that we've got now that set of players, we can move players around, and if, for example, one of the wing backs isn't playing too well or is a bit slower, you could kind of switch it up mid game. I can't remember us having that kind of depth for a long time. Even in our League One days, we were relying so heavily on like TC and Small. Behind that, no one. And I think the dynamic side of being able to change that formation mid-game is exactly what Lloyd Jones? I'm sure he's wanted it as well, but Nathan Jones has always wanted and always talked about, hasn't he? So,
We're basically able to shuffle the pack in different ways now. Before it was very rigid. Now we're able to sort of move players around that. And that's where actually a signing like Grant's really
Grant's got to be one of the most universal ones because he can play behind the striker. He can play on both. Yeah, he can play striker and he can play both wings. Yeah. And to be honest, that works so well. And I think Grant, from what I've seen, I don't think we're really getting the full kind of player at the moment. It feels like he's getting a bit up to speed, and there's definitely some glimpses of quality. And no more have we seen that, then to be honest, let's move on to the goal. His free kick, which was a great free kick going into a dangerous area, headed out, played back out to him, and an absolutely delicious cross. And I think that's the quality we've been lacking so much in those moments, those needs for quality. And who better? And I think the most
poetic,
goal going. Lloyd Jones gets his absolute slab head on it. Keeper gets a hand, but no one's stopping that. No. And watching him run,
covered end,
watching him run to the covered end was just beautiful. And as I say, it's just, you've hit the nail on the head. Something just poetic about it, wasn't it?
Yeah, and like we know how much he's loved. He's just signed a new contract. Like, he couldn't have been a better person on the end of it.
And also last season, we said one of the things, I'm surprised he doesn't get more goals because of how good he is on the heading the stats.
That's already probably, and you've hit the nail on the head with the quality of the ball. All of a sudden, we've got players that have got a bit more quality in terms of their delivery,
Mm.
and we're going to probably see more goals coming in from our taller players. So
Mm.
hopefully Kamesho will like chip in with a few as well, because
Well, you think I was looking when you look at
there's a
some of
lot of
the
height in
corners
there
we're
now.
lining up. You got like Chalobah,
Yeah.
Comescio, Jones, Bell's not small.
No.
Carlin Grant even's quite a
Yeah.
like physical character, and then you've got like your Lee Burns, and
Yeah.
then when we
Some
put together a certain
physicality in
squad,
there.
there's a hell of a physicality there.
Yeah.
Message when he comes on, he's quite.
Yeah.
I'm not sure on his height, but he's definitely quite a physical
Yeah.
kind of player. So yeah, it's definitely somewhere where I think we can look to strengthen, because I think last season we saw a lot of times we had a lot of corners, a lot of crosses, but it felt
Not
like it
many
was
goals.
definitely not. Yeah, it was quite untapped. And
Yeah, the conversion rate was pretty poor.
so the goal goes in, and once again I felt we were the stronger team still going on, and it felt like for once we were actually kind of going 1-1, and rather than sitting back and just hoping we might get lucky, it felt like we were taking the game to them, and the only real chance they had was kind of a bit from nothing. It was after the hydration break. Christ. I was expecting the American songs to start coming on and like everyone dancing around the stadium after the World Cup, but it was a ball knocked up, and it looked like it was going to be some kind of absolute worldie of a strike. I think it was Fraulo.
Yeah, it was.
He kind of took
Edge
it
of the box.
over. It was like, it almost reminded me of like Dennis Bergkamp-esque, and hits a volley. And it was that moment where I thought, we've done so well, and that's the kind of goal that's just going to go in. But good save from Mannion.
It was a good save. Yeah.
It wasn't the most difficult.
You'd expect
strikes,
him to
but
save it, to be fair, but yeah, it was a solid save.
It was a solid save. And then not too long after, it was
Rankin Costello.
Rankin Costello. So Rankin Costello came on and played a ball from kind of holding mid, and their defenders seemed to like almost like run into each other,
they were
and
very.
Lee Burn was in. It was it felt quite bizarre, kind of out of nothing. We were just almost just bearing down on goal.
Yeah, it's funny because when Lee Burn gets in and in those positions, he is fairly quick, but defenders tend to catch him eventually. So that's kind of what happened. Is he sort of got through, and then they sort of caught up with him.
He hasn't. It's going to sound weird criticising me because it's not meant to be, because I think he had such a brilliant game. And he's a player we're going to go on to a little bit more later, but he hasn't got the most clinical of like kind of brains when it comes to. I always think when he's in on goal, he always wants to kind of like drag it back, or he doesn't really go for the throat like a lot of kind of strikers
Weirdly, he's
do.
quite skillful though. And what he ended up doing was he went for the shot, dummy shotted it. So he put one of their players on his arse, and then that was when he sort of almost. You could tell he was then trying to get a shot away. The ball sort of nibbled off him, fell then to TC, which. At that time, I saw Rankin Costello was sort of sitting on the edge of the box.
He was quite angry.
Well, I was thinking, like, I was literally in my head, I was sort of screaming. I was like, and he obviously backed himself. He managed to nudge the ball like to the left hand side, and what a finish, by the way.
For anyone who has not seen, there is one angle. It's down pretty much in the bottom hand corner where it went, and when you look at how tight
stamp,
of a shot that had to be to go where it did. It was the only place he could hit. It was right in the side net.
Foot through as well. It's hit hard.
With everything we've had go on recently, with the talks around him and Preston, and is he going to sign this new contract? Once again, the goal he scored now, you look at 2 goals he's scored in the last 2 games, an absolute beauty in the Carabao Cup. And for me, that was, even though the other one was a bit more kind of camera.
I thought this was clever, the one that he's put away.
This was a better goal. It's a stunning goal.
Really
and he just takes that extra step.
It was
Sanderson who just couldn't quite get in. And it was just such a good goal. And watching those celebrations and him running off and seeing him with a big smile on his face, to be honest, we've discussed how I'm not sure how much all of this has got to him, especially towards the tail end of last season, and to see him start this season like this and hopefully give fans that kind of confidence back towards him. Because I think a confident TC who starts to kind of hit these kind of runs of form where he is scoring goals and getting assists and this, that, the other is an incredibly dangerous player.
Yeah, I know, 100% agree. And like, we know he's got that. And I see a lot of stuff online, people saying, "Oh, where's the TC haters now?" I don't actually think there's many TC haters out there. I think there's a lot of people that get frustrated that he is full of bags of potential, and we know he can do these things, that when we don't see it, it is frustrating and people take that frustration out. But we know he has that ability, and he's shown it in the first 2 games. He's scored 2 absolute crackers. And imagine if he can have a whole season where he actually does start pinging goals in, his crossing improves, and we know he's so electric, great at taking players on as well. So he's got all those attributes. He could be immense.
And I think what people, as you say, maybe a mistake for the hating TC and wanting him out of the club and this, that, and the other. I think why he gets it so hard is because there's such a frustration of how good he could potentially be. And I think every Charlton fan wants our homegrown players to do well.
Yeah.
We see it with Miles Leaburn sometimes as well. Like, it's so frustrating because we know how good he can be and how much you want him to succeed. And with TC, it has been a journey.
Yeah.
I thought the interesting thing and seeing it is, I think it was before Derby, 172 games.
Yeah, it's mad. He's played a lot of games.
He's our longest. I think
Yeah.
he's our most capped kind of, well, whether you call it capped or appearance player that we've got in the starting lineup. And I find that as a really interesting.
At 22.
Yeah, his age.
So,
and you don't do that unless you have got some real underlying talent.
Yeah.
And maybe this is the season where, as I say, don't judge him in the Championship when we're shoehorning him into left wing back, bizarre role. Yeah. This is the season he's got to really prove a point. And
he's going to have more freedom this year.
And he's doing himself no harm in it so far. So, so after the goal goes in, it feels like, we did definitely maybe drop into that. Okay, legs definitely felt like they'd gone in the team. I think it did both sides. The sensible route was to go down the defensive. Message coming on, Sachenje coming on. But just before that, Corey Blackett-Taylor on the other side coming on. And as soon as I saw that, I thought, oh, God, writing's on the wall. Yeah. We know if a player as bad as Macaulay Bonne can come on against us and score, it's like every single time an ex-player comes up to us, we're cursed. And to be honest, he was their most dangerous. I mean, you've got players like Brewster who came on who you'd think on paper. Yeah. But Blackett-Taylor was causing some real problems. Yeah. And he was running up against Ali, who's not massively defensively minded. And I think Mesic was quite scared of him in regards to pace. Yeah. Because I think right at the beginning, one of the first kind of ones when Mesic came on, he absolutely destroyed him for pace. And I think ever since then, he kind of dropped off a little bit more. Yeah. And it felt like if the danger was going to come, it was going to come through him. To be honest, there wasn't much. They had a lot of pressure, but very little chance.
They had the one sort of mild penalty shout where I think was it Kamesho? It might have been Sachenje. I'm not sure.
It was Sachenje who dragged down.
He had a bit of his shirt, but it wasn't enough. I don't think.
He went ballistic. Did you see afterwards as well? Kamesho had a proper almost like square up to him. It was quite funny.
Yeah, it's nice to see. To be fair,
no, I don't think it was. He definitely did. He definitely did have his. I thought it was a bit of 6 of one, half dozen of the other. They seemed like they both had a bit of each other's shirt. His was probably being pulled when Sachenje went down. But
your thoughts on 8 minutes of additional time? That did worry me.
Yeah.
Because we were obviously, I can
tell you Nathan Jones' thoughts. He was not happy at all.
I
he wasn't happy about a few different things, really. But
I don't know where it came from, really. I know they've got the breaks in, so I guess that's part of it.
They've just got, I think, they've just
new
got
rules.
Ludicrous amounts of break.
I think they brought in some new rules.
Corners and stuff are very broken up now at the moment, and it seems like this whole thing about free kicks being decided before the ball even goes in. It seems like there's a few breaks. Obviously, I don't know with the hydration breaks, but I think they
must have
also. I'm assuming they're only hot weather things. I hope to God.
Yeah.
But yeah,
when you're
seems
sort of
high.
2-1 up and you're sort of just trying to ride the game out. The last thing you don't want to see 8 minutes come off on the board.
No, you really don't. But I thought we
played out
really well.
We did.
The only chance really of note, they had a cross in where I think Carlton Morris went for the header and Comescio headed it instead. It looped and it looked a little bit shaky.
Yeah. That was it, though, wasn't it?
Away from that, it was everything else was kind of pot shots. She had a nice little run from Bobby Clark at one point that looked like he was going to run through a whole team, but we stopped him, and that's it.
Yeah.
We always had a body on the line. We always had. It felt like very much that beginning of last season where everything was on the line.
Yeah.
And it seems like these new players have bought into that as well.
Yeah.
And I thought we rode it out really well defensively all day. To be honest, the Schmodix goal wasn't a bad goal. It wasn't like we had any highlight bad performances when it comes to defensive
No, I think
side.
all round we put in a good shift and actually for a new formation we did well. We did well because it's not easy sort of especially players who have played in the old system last season. It's hard to adapt and they'll have had a pre-season, but it's nothing like playing in a full sort of championship level game. So yeah, delighted when that full-time whistle went. I was just like, getting that 3 points on the board this early in the season is massive because I think it just takes a lot of pressure off.
When you look, there'll be clubs who do go 5-6 games without a win, and that's when, as I say, getting that first, it just releases the pressure off, for example, like the West Ham game. And we have got some tough games at that beginning kind of period of play, and it could have quite easily been a season we could have gone 3 or 4 games without maybe getting that victory.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, every game, to be fair, is tough, but we've then got our next home games, Preston at home, which again, I'd fancy us. So we could actually be getting off to a really positive start, and that all of a sudden that really just boosts you up the league a little bit, gives you a bit more freedom to sort of push on, which is what we want to see, because we don't. What last thing we needed was to be sort of down the bottom really early on. So yeah, I was delighted with.
I think the main question off the back of that, and I think it's a way to finish really on this game, is off the back of that victory, are we now aiming? Is it playoffs or is it automatics? is really where we've got to be looking at. I think from now.
Well, we've got more points than West Ham and Burnley, to be fair, and Wolves.
Yep. It's all looking good. It's all looking good. But we've been here before. But no, as I say, can't be a better way to start. And it's probably a good segue into the next one, which is looking on forward to our next game. As I say, it feels like less pressure, albeit definitely, I think, a good time maybe to play them. I think early on in the season, but it's going to the London Stadium and
yeah, I mean, that's probably the toughest game you're going to have this season. If maybe Wolves away, or Burnley away, but
I think beginning of the season we've seen it so many times that these teams that have come down, it might take them actually 3 or 4 games to kind of get to speed.
They'll also
maybe
have
even longer.
They'll also have players like I'm presuming players like Tati, who they signed from like Serie A last year, might be looking for an option out before the end of the window. So all of a sudden you've got a few players that like may be looking elsewhere that are still being played whilst they're there. So you've got a bit of a chance, like you said. Obviously they're still completely fresh and that sort of thing. So it's definitely not a bad time to play them. And we've just come off the back of a win. The boys will be massively up for it, and that we're going to be sold out away and all that stuff. So who knows?
And I think the nice thing with this system is it seems like our biggest strength in this system is quite quick counter-attacks now. And I think that's something we haven't been able to say for a long time, but probably works quite well against certain teams. And I think against a slightly better team who maybe are going to have quite a lot of the ball, hitting them on the counter with that pace and that trickery might actually work quite well. And don't get me wrong, I'm not expecting to really go there, and to be honest, I expect us probably to lose. But do I think there's points for the taking, 100%. And I think all we can do is go there, put in a good performance, put everything into it. And I think that's all you can do on a game like that. Put everything into it and come away proud with the amount of work we put in.
As a club as well, Charlton historically tend to do quite well against teams that are seen as the sort of strongest.
Ipswich last year.
That's what I mean. We
went and beat them, what was it, 4-3?
3-0. Yeah. Away from home. So yeah, we know we can do it. So and the pressure is off. We're the massive underdogs. Let's see what we can do. But if we lose, it's not the end of the world. We've already got that 3 points in the bag. So that's why actually the game, the result against Derby is so big. So
yeah, no, definitely. And going into, I say we move on from the Derby game. We've oversighted something quite big, which is the individual performances. So we'll quickly do that before we finish the episode. I think there was some overall pretty good performances, no bad ones, but we definitely did have some individuals that played quite well. I think let's start off with the substitute, and that's for us, Leeburn.
Yeah,
I think if you said to me, did he create loads of chances? Did he do this? Did he do that? No. But did he put everything in and cause an absolute nuisance? And I thought the difference in how their defence were having to deal with him over maybe what Godden was.
That was the big thing.
It was a big thing. And I thought it was one of his best games I can think of for a little while for Charlton.
You had like Sanderson, for example, going from winning every header against Godden to now having to deal with this big unit who's come on that's held the ball up well, who clearly ran off the last man well, because he did for the winner. And he, like you say, he put himself about. We know what he brings as well. Again, like we get sometimes frustrated with Leeburn because he can come across a bit like sort of lackadaisical and a bit like he doesn't really. It's not even that it looks like he doesn't care. He just sometimes he can look a bit lead boots. But today he came on fresh. He really caused them problems, and he brought, like you said, something different. Their defenders all of a sudden had to deal with physicality. And it ultimately ended up with us getting the winner. So
well, I wonder if that's opened up the question of whether, especially against someone like West Ham, where maybe getting down the wings, crossing it in, maybe he is the person to start in that game.
There'll be games where he rotates out with Godden, and Godden's not going to start every game anyway because he's a bit more prone to injuries and that sort of thing. So we will see quite a bit of Leeburn, I think. And if he can play the way he did against Derby, then I'm all for it. Like he's definitely a dangerous player on his day.
Yeah, long may it continue. And he's just a handful, isn't he? He's such a physical specimen. Like, and as you say, he's kind of
great option.
Yeah, his bizarre one that he kind of has is for such a physical big striker. He's actually got feet that are really quite
great
classy.
feet for a big man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he really is. So,
Yeah.
no, really good performance, and I think really nice to see, because there's definitely some. I think once again, it's a big season for him. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of question marks around him, and I think there definitely is a player in there, and can we see it? And I think the injuries have never helped him, but definitely it's a season where I think we've got to start seeing it. Or I think if we don't see it this season, it's probably starting to consider his future.
I
At
think you
Charlton,
can,
so.
in the first season up, you can sort of give him a bit of leeway. Now he's got a championship season under his belt. We want to see what he can really do. So, yeah, let's see.
No, definitely. Well, moving on from there, we will leave, well, I suppose, the second best duo I thought on the pitch. And these two are both players that are going to come to no surprise to people because they were there last week. But we will start with Chalobah.
Yeah, he just
What a difference he makes to our midfield. And everyone saw it last week, and the question was, well, against the League Two side, maybe you are going to look good, but how are you going to look in the Championship? He looked the exact same.
Yeah.
He's such a all-round midfielder. You saw him putting in really good defensive tackles.
Yeah, some great slide tackles.
Yeah, quick passing as well, just picking up the ball and playing forward, whether that's long balls, whether it's kind of quick kind of 1-2s with the wingers.
Yeah.
And he's just a general, isn't he? That's
Yeah.
how I'd describe him. He's just a proper midfield general.
And
And they're quite hard to come by.
They are. He imposes himself on a game, but he also he wants the ball. Like that's what we were lacking last year. Was we sort of had Doherty and Coventry. They both very good at what they do, but they're not the sort of players to be like, give me the ball, I want to push it forward. All of a sudden, you've now got Chalobah in there who can just say, right, pass me the ball, let's get this ball up the pitch.
But also frees up, for me, a player like Coventry just to play his role. And I thought Coventry was a bit of an unsung hero in that squad today.
Yeah,
I actually thought he played really,
well.
really well. And I think it does highlight, if you don't put the pressure on him having to be some kind of creative midfielder, because the two players playing next to each other, neither of them particularly going to bring that game. Whereas when you give him his role of that kind of holding mid and let Chalobah be the more kind of creative, all-round midfielder, he had a really good game. And I think that's what we realised was so good about Coventry. And I think he felt a bit lost as a player at the end of last season, and obviously Cody took his role. But I thought Coventry, because of the way Chalobah played, it really brought his side out.
He just has to focus on what he's good at, and that's really what you need in a side. If you're going to get the best out of players, give them the opportunity to do what they're good at. Chalobah's good at getting the ball forward and getting his foot on the ball. Coventry's good at sort of harrying and getting the ball back. So.
And my hope is that Uma coming in is more like the Chalobah role. He seems like he's a defensive mid-minded, but picking up that kind of player. Because Chalobah, the one thing, and it's so heartbreaking, but the likelihood is we're not going to get a full season out of him. He is that injury-prone player, and at some point we are going to have to go a bit of time without him. So, but no, long may it continue while he's there, because he has been a breath of fresh air and transformed that midfield in the early days of his kind of Charlton career. Really shown what that midfield should be.
He's been standout in terms of what we've needed. So, really, really impressed.
And we'll save the best for last. As say, it's a really easy one. I think the only point of the game he looked a bit more lost was when he was maybe playing out on the right, but as soon as he switched to the left, was just causing chaos upon chaos upon chaos. Tops off with a goal. TC.
We've already obviously covered sort of our thoughts on sort of what he's capable of, but he just showed again like what he is so good at, and like the amount of times he sort of cut inside, sprinted past his man. He still had the odd occasion where the cross wasn't great or he'd make the wrong decision. That shot.
I don't think you're ever going to have that.
No, and I think that's something that he's always going to struggle with. But what we did see was. I thought it was brave, actually, what he did at the end of the game, where he could have easily just played the ball across to Rankin Costello. Instead, he thought, no, I'm going to take this man on and I'm going to put my foot through this. And that actually ultimately won us the game.
But it's the confidence, isn't it? I think TC, I think Nathan Jones always says it about him. His ability as a player is there in abundance.
Yeah, there's nobody disputing.
It's probably confidence. Or everything to do with TC is confidence in his own ability to do it. And when you see him actually doing that, you see his best side.
And the more he does it, the more we're going to see of it, I think. And you're right, like the confidence side of things is huge.
I think, I'd say the only thing that can make it better is him signing a long-term contract with us, which I really hope.
Sounded promising.
Yeah, it sounds like from something that sounded quite perilous 10 days ago and looked like he probably was on his way out. to now be looking in a position, his first 2 performances he's had this season so far, and that new contract. And that new contract might also just invoke a bit
Boost
more
him.
confidence. And I think
Yeah.
it could be a really, really big season for TC this
I
year.
agree. Like, I think we're going to hopefully see the best of him. So yeah, let's hope we do, because we know what he can do. Like, it's as simple as that.
No, definitely. Well, bit of a bizarre way round of doing it today, mainly due to our incredible lack of memory. But let's leave it on the final one, which is a beautiful sight so far. But let's get up that league table for the first time this season. I'll bring it up on the screen now. 6th place, we've got the mighty Bolton around us, Swansea, QPR, Watford,
Yeah.
Millwall. I was trying to leave them out, but even Blackburn have not quite in the playoffs, just on the outskirts. Looking at it, I don't think it's how the table's going to finish at the end of the year, but it's a nice way to start.
It's a beautiful way to start, and I just think, like we've already said, but it just takes the pressure off a little bit.
I thought it was very interesting though, for pretty much every team having played, apart from the kind of Welsh derby in Cardiff and Wrexham playing. +2 goal difference was only 2 teams, which was Millwall and QPR. The rest was all +1.
I
which
think
shows how tight you've got. You've got probably 3 or 4 draws in there, and 3 or 4 games that were all decided by 1 goal.
A lot of openers are usually quite cagey, I think, because you've got both teams aren't going to want to concede many goals, so it's all, and it's also just feeling each other out in those first like half an hours of those openers. But yeah, I think we'll see more and more sort of high scoring goals as the season goes on. That's just how the Championship is. It's a mental league, but it was nice to score 2 goals, to be honest, wasn't it, as well? Like, that's the other thing. It's like,
and that's another thing I think this season, if we can start to become a slightly better goal scoring team, it would just be, even if we finish around the same kind of spot, I see that as a massive development, because for fans as well, it is that balancing act. The last year was quite turgid to watch. It wasn't the most enjoyable. A lot of games you're watching thinking, ugh, we're getting the points, but Christ, not the easiest.
grinding them out.
If we can do a similar thing, if not a little bit better, and also have the performances in there, it's definitely a stepping stone.
Better to watch, isn't it? You want to see your team attacking and that sort of thing. So, but yeah, like, the table looks pretty right now.
That's good right now.
Let's finish the season now. So.
Yeah, stays like that for the rest of the season. I'll be very happy. So, well, there we are. That is the that's the end of this episode. It's been a very, very enjoyable one. So we will be back next week for hopefully looking over the West Ham game and seeing what comes of that. And we've got a big week, actually, because it's West Ham and then going into the Tottenham game as well.
I know people have struggled. Like, we looked at getting tickets for West Ham, but I'd like, hopefully, to think that we might make it to the Spurs. We want to go to the Preston one as well, don't we?
Yeah, so we'll be heading up. I think Preston's a definite one we're going to be getting to. I say West Ham would have been a real love, but it's just been
to be fair, the fans who make it there, it's going to be a great day out, actually, because whatever happens, like you said, we're the underdogs. Like, we're not expecting a huge amount.
The only thing I've seen from the West Ham away end is I don't think it's the greatest.
No.
I've seen
it's not the greatest view from the front row.
No, very true. But yeah, as always, look, if you have liked the episode today, please do remember to like, follow, and subscribe. And we will see you on the next one.